Okay, terrific. Before we get started, I would like to introduce the mastermind behind this series of drawing classes, and that is the lovely and talented librarian, Lynn. Let's
Thank
give her a
you.
big round of applause. Hi, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to do it. My
And
pleasure.
did you want to make any announcements or plug any upcoming programs?
No, but be on the lookout because we're going to have Shawn next year again. So make sure you're on our e-blast so you get notification. But yeah, love having you, Shawn.
Oh, love being here. Thank you very much for having me. And a great big thank you to Lynn and other librarians who are bringing programs like this to you during the time when not everybody can get out. So it's wonderful that our library meets our needs, even at home. I have muted everyone. So if at any point you have questions, please feel free to unmute. Let me put myself in the spotlight. Hey. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to review shortly what we have gone over for the past 4 classes. So you may remember the very first class, we talked about the concept of values, being able to see and differentiate 5 distinct values from light to dark. And those values are darkest dark, which would be a 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. In terms of light logic, this is called the cast shadow, form or crest shadow, local color, reflected light, and highlight. The best way to learn about values is to do single object studies, where you sit and sketch everything that's in the fruit bowl, one object at a time, and you show 5 distinct values on each object. Then we learned about creating symmetrical shapes. And in this exercise, we started with the center line. We measured to determine how much of the glass was stem, how much was bowl. And then we sketched the stems and the bowl and the ellipses, making sure that the ellipses never came to a point. And we measured to determine the width and the length of the ellipses. Then using that tool of measuring, we worked on using sighting and sight sizing and looking at an open doorway to create a perspective drawing so that you get the feel of the open doorway. And you do that by using a pencil, notching it where your basic unit was, and then using that pencil as a measuring tool to measure your open doorway. Today, we're going to learn about a new concept called negative space. And if you struggled during the sighting and sight sizing, you will be greatly relieved by negative space. It is much simpler and easier to grasp. Negative space helps you to make a complicated drawing task even simpler. When you focus on the negative space, it's the space that's around the positive form. So let me put it to you this way. The negative space and the positive form go hand in hand, like the Zen philosopher Alan Watts says, you can never have the use of the inside of the cup without the outside. So the inside of the cup is the negative space, the outside is the positive form. In another example, here we have a ram. This is the positive form. To draw that ram would be a real challenge. But if I said instead, draw this particular shape, or this shape, or this shape, do you see how much easier that would be than drawing all these legs going in crazy directions? Or even these horns. Now, when you see the actual horns, they go off in these spectacular spirals. To draw that would be a challenge. to draw this simple shape way easier. So we're going to practice first on the negative space and then on the positive form. And I'm going to show you a trick that artists use to help simplify a drawing when you're working from a photograph as well. Now, negative space is something portrait artists use all the time. Think back to some of the 1800s when they did the cameos, the little cameo necklaces. So the cameo, the side view, profile portrait, was always cut out of ivory. And the way they did that is they shined a light and drew the negative space around the face. So when I do portraits of people, let me take the plastic off. I often will focus on the space that's around the head first. In this instance, this woman had a very distinctive profile. In order to get a likeness, I really had to focus on the space around the nose, the space under the nose, between the lips, under the chin. So sketching that negative space really helped me to get the profile. It also helps in terms of full face portraits when you're trying to get the direction of the gaze. So for example, if I'm looking off, look at the whites of my eyes. The whites would be negative space. The color, or the green part, would be the positive form. If you get the big shape of the whites, you get that I'm looking in that direction. So you can see the importance of having negative space plus positive form. For this exercise, I'm going to move you to the easel, and we're going to start off with this sketch. And we're going to make a drawing that looks something like this. So start off by sketching a format on your paper that's roughly equal to this. It doesn't have to be the exact same size. It's just easier for you if it's similar. It's a similar shape. So I sketched it using a straight edge. You don't have to use a ruler. You can use the side of a book or a piece of paper, whatever you have handy. So you're just making an outline like a box. Next, I'm going to split this box right down the middle, both on the sketch and on my paper. Okay, I also split the box horizontally right through the middle, both on my paper and on the sketch. And then I numbered each quadrant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is a trick from Betty Edwards and her book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. I posted this last week, but I'll post it again just in case. This is available through the library or through the RCLS system. And the reason we do this is when you add a format to it, it helps you to see the entire negative space shape. So we're going to simplify this RAM by looking at the entire negative space shape. So if everyone has the format that I have sketched, give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Gail, are you all caught up? I don't want to leave you behind. All caught up? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay. All right, terrific. It looks like we have most everybody. So at this point, I'm going to move to the upper quadrant, number 1, and I'm looking at where this part intersects the line. So if I use a pencil, I could measure this far down is where that horn starts. So I'm making a little mark, and then I'm looking at the shape. When I say shape, I'm talking about the shape inside the horn. This is the negative space shape, the one I'm coloring black. I'm looking at that shape. So it starts right about here. And then it's curving over like a mushroom. Goes down to the line. Then curves back up to here. So I'm making this whole shape, and I'm going to color it in black so that you can see clearly this shape. If you're not sure where these begin and end, you can measure using your pencil and marking that basic unit and then just measuring. I'm going to go ahead and color this whole thing in. You don't have to color it unless you're having a hard time seeing it. I'm doing this so that you can clearly see which part is the negative space and which part is the positive form. So the positive form is going to be blank. The negative space is what I'm sketching. Okay. When you have finished all of the negative space in box number 1, give me a thumbs up so I know that you're caught up. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Maria. Okay. When you have finished all of this negative space, then we're going to move to this negative space. Now, try not to focus on the ram's face or any of the defining characteristics of the ram. Instead, look completely at the negative space shape. So I'm going to start by sketching, since I see where the horn comes into this box, sketching. Now, if I wanted to show where that top part of the other horn is, I could measure and get an idea of where it goes up to. And I see it curves down and it curls towards this part of the page. Don't forget your tool of measuring. So if you're not sure how thick the ram is, you can always measure based on the lines that you've sketched, the crosshairs in the center of the reference photo and the crosshairs on our paper. That will really help you to keep the ram in proportion. And once you have the basic shape of that negative space, then you can color it in. All right, when you're all caught up with all of the negative space shapes in quadrant 2, give me a thumbs up. Wonderful. Thank you, Arlene and Maria. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Maria. Or Marie. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to move to quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 has all of the activity up here. I know where this part of the RAM comes in. If I wanted to measure, I could determine how far out that leg goes, and that'll help me keep the leg. There we go. And then I can measure up from the bottom to determine how far the rocky cliff that the ram is standing on goes. And looking at the shape between the legs, this negative space shape here will help me get the shape of this leg on the outer side. Okay, when you've had a chance to get all of the negative space shapes in quadrant 3, give me a thumbs up so I know you're caught up. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Marie. All caught up, Kathy? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So now we're going to move to the fourth quadrant. In this one, the negative space shapes get a little more elaborate. So I'm starting with this little negative space shape that shows me the shape of the egg, the leg. So it goes right up against the line and then right here, and that shows that that leg is bent. And then the other space between doesn't quite go up to the ram's body. So I'm really looking at the shapes between the legs and sketching those in place and then filling them in. Okay, when you are caught up with everything in the fourth quadrant, give me a thumbs up so I know you're caught up. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Marie. All right. When you are finished with all of the negative space, look at how close you are to the shape of the ram. You see how the negative space really helps to simplify that complicated form. So you sketch this showing all the negative space. And it really didn't take that long to sketch something as detailed as the ram, just with the negative space. Now we're going to fill in the positive form. So I'm going to switch to a clean sheet of paper. And I'm going to do the format. Remember to put crosshairs right through the middle. Now, this time, we're going to focus on the positive form. So I'm doing it the same way by starting in the one quadrant, the first quadrant. I'm measuring to determine how far in on my center line the ram's butt comes. And I see it comes to right about here. So I make a little mark. And then I follow that shape up. And then it stops right about here on this line. Up here, there's an ear that sticks out. And I'm going to measure down for the top of that horn. You see, it's right about there. And then that gives me the shape of the ram's horns using negative space. When you're done with that part, just move right over to the second quadrant and use the tool of negative space to help you shape that horn. You'll notice that the more you use it, the easier it is to see. And don't forget to sight size and use your pencil as a measuring tool. When you're finished with the negative space shapes in the second quadrant and you have the shape of the rim, the positive form, then move to the third quadrant, look at those negative space shapes, and again, sketch the space between the legs to help you get those legs. When you have all of the shapes in quadrant 3, move to 4, remembering to draw the space between the legs to help you see the positive form of the legs. Now, when you have the shape of the rim created by the negative space shapes in all 4 quadrants, when you have that shape complete, pause there for a second. Pause, take a look, and see how close you are. There may be some shapes that need a little bit of refinement before we start adding the values. So check yourself real quick. Make sure that your shape is as correct as it can be. And then when you feel confident that you've used negative space to help you create this positive form of the rim and you're ready for the values, give me a thumbs up and we'll continue. Take your time with this and remember to use your eraser like a drawing tool. I use my eraser almost as much as I use the pencil. Smart people are always making changes. Okay, give me a thumbs up when you're caught up. Wow, you ladies should be sweating. You're working so hard. Okay, don't get too hung up in the shape. Remember, look at the space between the legs. Use that to help you draw the positive form. Everyone has the shape ready? All right, excellent. I'm going to take that as a yes. If you have a question at any point, you can unmute and ask away. Keep that in mind. Now that we have the basic shape, we're going to go to our skill of value. So I'm starting off with the 5 value. This is my darkest dark. I'm looking at the ram and I can see that there's a couple of dark shadows on the ram right under the chin. So I'm going to sketch everything I see that's a dark shadow, really dark, not the second dark, but really dark. On the back leg, I can see that half of it is in shadow. It's pretty dark. And then the horns are casting a shadow right down the back. And I'm sketching just the shape of that dark. Try not to think of horn or back, but instead look at the shape of the dark and sketch it, just like you sketched the negative space. So there's negative space shapes inside a positive form as well. And that's what these shadowy shapes are. So everywhere where you see something as dark as this 5 value, you want to get all those darks in place. As you're sketching in those patterns of darks, try not to think eye or ear or what the object is. Instead, just look at the pattern of darks. Sketch it as a dark shape. We get hung up when we start labeling things. Then it has to look like that thing instead of just the dark shape. Once you have all of your 5s in place, then we're going to go one step lighter. This is a 4. So everywhere where you see marks that are one step lighter, so that's still a dark, but it's not quite as dark as the 5. Now at this point, we have our darkest dark and the next dark. So the 5s and the 4s in place. When you're finished with your 2 darkest, then we want to put the 3 value. 3 is a middle value, so it's not too dark, not too light. It's right in the middle. The place where you see the 3 is on the body of the ram. So you can see there's some little sketchy marks that give it a middle tone. Right across the tummy, right across the chest, on the back leg. Again, use your eraser like a drawing tool. The gravel on the cliff also has some 3 in it. And these are just little sketchy marks, side by side strokes with your pencil. When you're ready, we're moving to the 2. The 2 is the lightest you can get and still be adding strokes to the sketch. So the 2 are very thin pencil strokes. I can see them giving texture and shape to those horns. There's some on the face that shows the center line of the nose, the mouth, and the legs. Okay, and then the last value is the 1, and that's basically just white paper. So the 1 is the lightest lights, and you would get to it by erasing out. So you may need to erase some places where you see light. And getting the side of the ram's face, right around the eye, and erasing any stray fingerprints that may have gotten on the sketch. You can also erase your crosshairs. You don't need them at this point. Okay, when you have finished with your RAM and you've gone through all the values from 5 to 1, then give me a hand raise and I'll put you in the spotlight and we'll show off your RAM. Carla, I'm so happy that you finished and volunteered. Make sure you unmute.
All right, it's not going to get much better than this, but.
Oh, wow. Carla, did the tool of negative space help you to draw that RAM?
It did help me somewhat, but I realized in this center here, it's a little bit too wide. I didn't measure properly there, but yeah, it did help somewhat.
Those legs look really good.
Yeah, it was not an easy, the head was really, it was really hard, but I tried.
Carla, you did a great job with those horns and with the legs. And when you're evaluating your work, think about before you knew the tool of negative space, could you have sketched it that well?
No.
And chances are, you know, he would have had perfectly straight legs and a stocky body and not look near as good as what you've done.
Yeah, it did definitely help with the legs and shaping them.
That's really beautiful. Your shading is very nice too.
Thank you.
All right, let's give Carla a big round of applause. Excellent work and extra credit for going first.
Thanks.
Who would like to follow that? Awesome. Thank you, Marie. Make sure you unmute. Hi, Marie. Wow. Wow, I love the shadow that wraps around the body of the ram.
It's hard. It's very challenging. The head was especially difficult.
Yes.
I think if I was using a charcoal pencil, it would be a little easier.
You
to
should give
blend.
that a shot.
Yeah,
The one thing I'm noticing is when I say head or I'm thinking head, already the left brain jumps in there and tries to get me to draw a head. But if
Yep.
I'm thinking shape and just looking at some of the negative space shapes that are inside the head, like around the eyes, around the cheeks and nose, then it's a lot easier for me to sketch it.
right. I found it hard getting the right proportion.
Mhm.
And like his body, I think is too long. But
Okay.
I tried.
Okay. Sometimes it helps to try it again. And
Yeah.
if you've remember the tool of measuring too, that will help you with proportion. Next week, we're going to get into proportion quite a bit, so that will be helpful. Let's give Marie a big round of applause. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Arlene, are you finished? Make sure you unmute. There you are.
Mute. Okay.
You did it.
Well,
What?
I didn't think I'd be drawing Bambi or something
I
like that.
love him. The horns are perfect. Look at the shape of that. That's amazing. Also, the body, I made mine a little stockier, I think, than the image. Yours is the same as the image. You really did a great job getting that shape.
Thank you.
And how was it using the tool of negative space?
Oh, I found it to be very, very useful. I never thought about that before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In still life drawing, we often use it to do handles like cup handles or pitcher handles, because some of them can be really difficult and ornate. And if you look at the space inside the handle, it makes it easier to draw the handle itself. Arlene, that is fabulous. Does anyone have any comments for the lovely and talented Arlene?
Oh, please.
Big thumbs up. Let's give her a round of applause. Nicely done. Maria, would you like to go? Make sure you unmute.
Okay.
Hi. How did it go? Oh, wow. Look at that. It looks like you caught on to negative space pretty easily. Did you find it helpful?
Oh, very helpful. Definitely. I didn't have the image of the ram. I just had it on my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain things I couldn't see too well. But on this one, I think it came out better, the shape.
Yes, it's an awesome shape.
And I don't think I could have done the legs without knowing about really doing the negative space first.
Same here. I could never have come up with those crazy shapes because already your brain knows too much. You think they're legs, so they have to be straight lines. But
Right,
those,
that's true.
yeah, those legs are anything but straight, aren't they?
No, they're not. So it was a real big help.
Beautifully done.
Oh, thank you.
Really beautiful. Any comments for the lovely and talented Maria? Let's give her a big round of applause. And
Thank you.
good job. Let's see, who else is ready? Kathy. Wonderful. Kathy, if you can unmute, please. Perfect. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Kathy.
Can you see it?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Beautifully rendered. I love the shape of the ram. He looks so majestic.
Fabulous.
Kathy, how was it using negative space?
I thought it was good. I learned from that a lot.
Good. I hope it helps you. All those candelabras and such that you have in the back there, if you use one of those as a subject, it will really help you with negative space. Because the shapes of them, the only way you could get it is through negative space. You know what I mean?
Right.
Seeing what's around it. Any comments for the lovely and talented Kathy?
I
Big
think it's
thumbs up.
amazing,
Yes.
just amazing.
All right. Let's
Yeah,
give her a
you
big
came
round
out
of
great,
applause.
Kathy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nicely done. All right. Who else is ready? Gail. Hi, Gail. I'm putting
I don't
you
know
in
if
the
you can see
spotlight.
this.
Yes, hold it still for a
Info?
second. Oh, wow.
I
Yes.
don't know if you could see him. I had a lot of trouble. It was very difficult. I can't believe I even had anything finished.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can see him, but
Yes. Yes. Well, I understand that it's a challenging sketch
mhm,
and a challenging concept.
yeah,
So for homework, we're going to do something simpler that I think will help. Gail, grasping the concept is the biggest thing. Once you have it here, then the next time you do it, it's easier. And the next time it's even easier and so forth. So
yeah.
you're
It was
all
really hard for the first time, so I have to do it more often.
exactly. You're
Try it again.
already over the hump, my friend.
Thank you,
Let's give her a big round of applause. Nicely done, Gail.
thank you.
All right. Now, who have I not put up there? Ellen, I don't think we've heard from you yet. Would you like to show your work? Okay. And if anyone who doesn't have their camera on would like to show their work, make sure you turn your camera on and I'll be happy to put you in the spotlight. Okay. And Ellen, there you are.
It's not done. It's just the beginning, basically, but my hands are very slow, so
That's okay. When you're sick, it's sometimes hard to make them work.
yeah.
Ellen, how was the tool of negative space?
It was
was it-
great, really good. I really like that.
The legs are really beautiful, and the ram looks like he's having an excellent hair day.
It looks like he's having a fit. No, we'll get more done. It was fun. Actually, did we get a picture of this ram? Because I didn't.
Oh,
It did get sent out with one of the email reminders. I know I
Okay.
got it, but
I know I didn't get that. I don't know why I didn't get that. But anyway, if you can you resend the picture?
Hi, Ellen. I'll send it
Yes.
to you again. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
all right, let's give Ellen a big round of applause. All right, and is there anyone who doesn't have their camera on who might like to show their work? Okay, this is a last call. Anyone who might like to turn on and show their work? Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate for a second and show you something that we may not have time to do the whole drawing for, but you can do it at home. Take a household object, any kind of an object. I'm going to use a scissor and use it as a subject for a negative space sketch. So I'll take you to my easel and set it up. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Like you don't want to do something that's going to just be incredibly frustrating. Some examples of negative space drawings that other people have done, and I'll put this up at the end as well, are things like ladders or stools. You know, so find a single simple object, even a leaf would work well. I'm going to put this, put it on a sheet of white paper so it's easier for you guys to see. Okay, so to sketch an object like this, If you want to do the format, you can. What I would often do is do the format first. Should have done that before I put the scissors on there, but oh well, live and learn. So that will help me to see the bigger shape of the scissors. Then I look at it in terms of quadrants. And I'm sketching just the space I see between these shapes. Now, I'm not trying to sketch the positive form of the scissor. Instead, I'm looking at the big overall shape and the negative space shapes in between. So on this, I'm going to use that to help me draw the positive form. Now try not to get too caught up in the positive form because it's easy to get trapped by details. Okay, so this needs to be over a little. And remember, if you don't get it right the first time, it's okay. You can erase. The eraser is your friend. So here's the top part. This has a little thickness to it. And then you work your way around the whole shape like it's a jigsaw puzzle, starting with the basic negative space shapes and then going from quadrant to quadrant, just like we did before. Another way to do this is if you are doing work from a photo, you can take your photo and fold it into quadrants like this. And then you start off with the top right quadrant and you draw the negative space shapes that you see. You can put it right on your paper, draw the negative space shape, then move to the left quadrant, the lower quadrant, and so forth. And that will help you get all of those negative space shapes in place. So for homework, and again, you know, homework is simply just an opportunity for you to reinforce that neural pathway that we just made. So it's just showing you how to do it again and making it simpler the second time. For homework, pick a household object, any household object, the simpler the better. Something like this, or, you know, a spray bottle, anything that isn't a complicated form. Set it in a place where you can see it. If you need to put crosshairs, put those down, and then do a negative space drawing of just the negative space shapes around it. Here's a little inspiration from previous people who have taken the drawing on the right side of the brain class. In that class, by the way, they have you do a chair. And the chair is an old Victorian style chair. So if you happen to have a chair in your house, those are wonderful models for negative space. Okay, are there any questions about using negative space to help simplify a complicated subject? I have rendered a group of women speechless. This must be a first.
I was going to say, I was very happy doing the value the way you did it, because it really makes you focus on the darks, just looking for the darks, the midtones, and the lights.
Excellent.
Separately. It helps you break it down, because I have a lot of trouble with that. So I'm going to work on that for sure.
I'm so glad. It's a discipline to get used to simplifying your values and going methodically from dark to light, but it's so much easier when you do, and painting especially. This is how I teach beginning painting classes too, is you work 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you get in that habit while you're drawing, it'll make your painting much easier in the future.
Yeah, well, doing the negative space is really a twist on the brain because you really have to look at it differently.
It is.
You know, it messes you up, but I could see it could be very effective.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so a sneak peek. Next week, we're going to be working with proportion charts and doing a proportion of the human head. And I'm going to show you some secrets that were passed down through the ages by Renaissance artists who had to get the portraits correct of the king and the court or off with their heads. So we'll
Pressure.
that's right, no pressure. We'll learn from some of their experience and we'll learn how beautifully proportionate the human skull can be and work from the master self-portrait by Pablo Picasso, which I'll be sending around. All right. Everyone have a wonderful week.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll send out the video. Shawn is like really quick with that. Can't wait for next
All
week.
right. Terrific. Everyone
right.
have a terrific week. Stay safe.
Thanks, Sean. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.